As Nora disembarked from the train in 1885, clutching a mere 17 cents and a wrinkled divorce letter, she felt as though her life had reached its end. Yet everything changed when a rancher with storm-gray eyes extended an unexpected offer, an opportunity to uncover her true self. Yet, when her wrathful husband shows up to pull her back to Boston, she must decide between the security of societal constraints and the daunting liberation of crafting her own fate. Will she summon the strength to defend the life she has created, or will she forfeit all that she has learned about her own value? The train wheels howled against the steel tracks as Nora pressed her face to the frigid window, observing her past fade away into the bleak October dawn. Her fingers gripped the letter that had transformed everything, the paper worn from countless readings. The words lingered in her thoughts, searing like embers. Our union was a misstep. Please refrain from searching for me. Your presence in Boston is no longer desired. 17 cents. That was everything she possessed after purchasing the ticket to nowhere. The other passengers cast furtive glances at her crimson eyes and creased dress, murmuring softly behind their hands. A woman journeying solo signified just one thing to them: trouble. Onward to Millbrook! The conductor's voice pierced through her thoughts with sharp clarity. At the conclusion of the journey, Nora felt a knot in her sluicsack. The conclusion has been reached. How exquisite. The train station resembled a scene pulled straight from a haunting dream. The wooden boards groaned beneath her weight as she ascended the platform, her petite bag weighing heavily in her quivering grasp. The wind sliced through her flimsy coat, causing her teeth to rattle. The remaining passengers swiftly departed, seeking the comfort of carriages and the warmth of their homes. She remained solitary as the train departed, its whistle diminishing into the distance like a fading cry. Millbrook lacked the charm of a bustling town. A handful of structures stood along a parched main street, seemingly on the verge of being swept away by the next fierce gust of wind. The mountains loomed around the valley like colossal stone sentinels, instilling a sense of confinement and insignificance within her. In Boston, she resided in a grand house featuring 12 rooms, attended by servants who served her tea on elegant silver trays. Now she possessed only the garments draping her form and a wedding ring that weighed heavily, like a shackle on her finger. A distant bark of a dog echoed through the air. A small infant let out a wail. Everyday sounds of everyday people going about their everyday lives. Nora was utterly lost in her understanding of what normal even was. Her feet glided forward on their own, leading her down the main street, flanked by structures that appeared to be only partially complete. The general store featured a sign that hung askew, proclaiming Caleb's Goods. The Dusty Boot Saloon spilled forth the sounds of hearty laughter and lively piano melodies, mingling with the crispness of the cold air. Everywhere the air was thick with the scent of dust and horses, mingling with an elusive aroma that felt like it could be hope, or perhaps despair. Her sluicsack rumbled audibly, causing her cheeks to flush with embarrassment. When was the last time she had a meal? What about yesterday? What about the day prior? Time had taken on an odd quality since Logan cast her aside. Time stretched endlessly, with hours dragging on while days slipped away in an instant. The door of the general store jingled softly as she nudged it open. The noise startled her. Within, the walls were adorned with shelves brimming with essentials that everyday individuals required: flour, coffee, rope, boots, items meant for those who possessed homes, lives, and aspirations. Behind the counter stood a slender man with sharp eyes and a mouth that seemed to have never curved into a smile. He observed her enter with an air of mischief, his eyes scanning her disheveled dress and anxious expression. "How can I assist you?" he inquired. Yet his demeanor conveyed a reluctance to assist anyone. Nora felt a flush rise to her cheeks. "I am seeking employment opportunities." "Any type of task?" The man chuckled, a noise reminiscent of shattering glass. "Task? Madam, can you recognize your current location? This isn't a sophisticated urban setting where women pretend to have careers. Women in this place either have husbands or they have nothing at all. Which one are you referring to?" Just as Nora was about to respond, the doorbell chimed once more. Thudding footsteps echoed across the wooden floor behind her. She sensed a presence behind her, yet she remained still, refusing to look back. Her face was already quite flushed. "Caleb, do you happen to have any of that excellent coffee remaining?" a resonant voice inquired. The tone was gentle. weary, yet compassionate. Absolutely, Lucas, but I have a bit of a predicament to handle first. Caleb glanced at Nora as if she were a puzzle waiting to be unraveled. This woman is seeking employment. Nora at last pivoted to face the other direction. The figure looming behind her was imposing, his dark hair accented by silver streaks at the temples. His garments were tidy yet worn, patched in spots with meticulous stitching. His hands bore the marks of toil, rough and scarred from years of labor. Yet his eyes, they held a softness, reminiscent of storm clouds promising relief to parched earth. "What type of work?" he inquired, directing his gaze at Nora rather than Caleb. "Anything," Nora uttered, loathing the way her voice felt so diminutive. "I possess the ability to cook. Neat, indeed. I absorb information rapidly." Caleb let out a derisive snort. "She embodies the essence of the city, Lucas. Most likely hasn't experienced a single day of work." Lucas paid no attention to Caleb whatsoever. He examined Nora's face as if it were a novel, uncovering details that eluded others. "My name is Owen Garrett. I manage a ranch located approximately 15 miles to the north of this place. I recently parted ways with my housekeeper last month. The position includes accommodation and 3 daily meals. Compensation is just." Nora's heart fluttered like a trapped bird yearning for freedom. "My name is Nora." "Absolutely, I'll accept it." "Wait a minute," Caleb interjected, his tone cutting through the air. "Lucas, are you really certain about this? That woman is fleeing from something. Take note of my words. Likely some issues with the husband." Owen's jaw clenched, yet his voice remained steady. "Everyone in this land is fleeing from something, Caleb. The inquiry lies in whether they are pursuing a more promising future or merely fleeing in fear." He cast another glance at Nora. "Which one are you?" Nora reflected on Logan, on the Boston house that had seemed like a stunning cage, on the friends who had abandoned her as soon as controversy cast a shadow over her name. She pondered the wedding ring pressing into her finger, and the way her husband had gazed at her as if she were damaged goods he wished to discard. "I'm sprinting towards a brighter future," she declared. For the first time in weeks, her words held true. Owen gave a slow nod. "Excellent, we will depart in 1 hour. That's plenty of time to gather your belongings." Nora lifted her petite bag. "This is all that I possess." A glimmer sparked in Owen's eyes, perhaps comprehension or sympathy. She wished it wasn't out of pity. "Caleb, please hand me a pound of that excellent coffee along with some of those crackers," Owen remarked, digging into his pocket for coins and perhaps some cheese if it's still fresh. "On its way," Caleb announced. All of a sudden, there was a noticeable warmth now that finances were in play. While Caleb collected the supplies, Owen redirected his attention to Nora. Working on a ranch presents its challenges, particularly for those unfamiliar with the demands of the task. "Are you certain about this choice?" Nora contemplated the idea of resting beneath bridges, of pleading for leftovers, of returning to Boston and acknowledging her failure. She envisioned Logan chuckling upon learning of her failure. She claimed, "I possess more strength than my appearance suggests." For the first time since their paths had crossed, Owen wore a smile. It transformed his entire visage, giving him a more youthful and less melancholic appearance. "We'll find out soon enough. My wagon is waiting outside. Hold on for me there." Nora stepped outside, the brisk wind whipping around her, her heart racing for the first time in weeks. She could hear Owen conversing with Caleb in hushed tones behind her. She seized phrases like "respectable lady and it's not your concern," and "take care of your own issues." The wagon, though aged, was meticulously maintained, drawn by a pair of robust and vibrant horses. Nora ascended to the wooden seat, her hands trembling from the chill, anxiety, and perhaps a hint of exhilaration. As Owen emerged from the store, his arms laden with supplies, he glanced at her perched in his wagon and nodded, as if she were meant to be there. He mentioned one thing while packing the supplies into the back. "There are guidelines at the ranch. Absolutely no drinking, no male visitors, no stealing, and no lying allowed. Break the rules, and you're out." "We understand," Nora stated with clarity. Owen ascended next to her and grasped the reins. The horses snorted and stamped, eager to return to their familiar surroundings. As they drove away from the general store, Nora caught a glimpse of Caleb peering through the window, his expression contorted with disappointment at the loss of his amusement. Just ignore Caleb, Owen remarked as they cruised along the main street. He harbors resentment since his wife departed last spring, eloping with a traveling salesman. Now he believes that every woman brings complications. Nora observed the structures of Millbrook diminish in the distance as they journeyed northward, drawing closer to the mountains. Is that the case? What are you? Challenges. Owen remained silent for an extended period, his gaze fixed on the path before him. He finally said, I believe that trouble and opportunity often look alike. It seems we'll soon discover what you truly are. Can you share the story of the woman who resided there before me? Nora inquired, as the wagon wheels jostled over the uneven terrain of the rugged dirt road. Owen's grip on the leather reins grew firmer, his jaw clenched, solid as granite. For a moment, Nora wondered if he would remain silent entirely. He finally revealed her name, Maria Santos. She had come up from Mexico with her brother 5 years prior. Renowned for culinary skills across 3 counties and adept at repairing anything that needed fixing. Rescued my ranch countless times. What transpired with her? Tied the knot and relocated to California with her new spouse. Owen shot a sideways glance at Nora, leaving me with a crumbling house and food that tastes like it's been through the ringer. Nora beamed at that. I can't guarantee that my cooking will rescue your ranch, but I assure you, it won't be detrimental either. That's certainly more than I can claim about my own efforts, Owen remarked. The path ascended gradually, meandering through towering pine trees and rugged rock formations. Nora had never encountered a landscape so vast, untamed, and devoid of human presence. In Boston, the clamor of carriages, the echoes of voices, and the tolling of church bells were inescapable. In this place, the only sounds that filled the air were the whispering wind weaving through the trees and the rhythmic clip-clop of horse hooves on the ground. Are you intimidated by effort? Owen inquired abruptly. I'm not sure, Nora admitted candidly. I haven't engaged in any of that. Owen brought the wagon to a halt. Have you never engaged in any strenuous labor? Never. Nora's cheeks flushed with a deep crimson hue. My husband held the belief that wives should not be in the workforce. I filled my days with reading, engaging in needlework, organizing dinner parties, and other trivial pursuits. Owen asserted that reading holds value. Are you able to handle numerical data? Maintain a collection of books? Indeed, I took charge of all our household accounts. Excellent. Maria struggled immensely with numbers, almost landed me in hot water with the bank on 2 occasions. With a sharp click of his tongue, Owen urged the horses into motion once more. How is your family doing? Will they not be concerned if you don't return home? Nora gazed at her hands, neatly folded in her lap. I lost my parents at the age of 16. Logan was my only family. She gazed at the mountains, their summits blanketed in snow despite it being just October. He ensured that I was aware of that. I ensured I grasped the depth of my gratitude. Thankful for what? For being selected. For possessing a space. To avoid solitude. The words lingered unpleasantly on her tongue. It's amusing how swiftly appreciation can transform into a confinement. Owen remained silent for an extended period. As he began to speak once more, his voice took on a gentler tone. My Sarah often remarked that about her first marriage. She expressed that her first husband treated her like an ornament, something to display rather than a partner. Sarah noticed a shift in Owen's expression. It softened, revealing a blend of gentleness and sorrow. My wife passed away in the spring. Nora experienced a sudden lurch in her sluckasack. I apologize, I was unaware. There's absolutely no justification for you to do that. Owen gestured forward, indicating the valley that lay nestled between the towering mountains. The ranch is over there. Nora inhaled sharply. The valley unfurled beneath them, resembling a lush green carpet, interwoven with a shimmering silver stream that danced in the afternoon light. Cattle scattered across the grassland, resembling patches of brown and black against the green expanse. At the heart of it all was a white house topped with a red roof, encircled by barns and corrals, and a garden bursting with the vibrant colors of late-season blooms. It's stunning, Nora whispered. Sarah shared that sentiment as well. It appeared to be a setting ripe for positive developments. Owen's voice wavered slightly. She had a knack for being correct about many matters. They descended into the valley as the sun began its descent toward the western mountains. The atmosphere carried a distinct aroma, fresh and crisp, reminiscent of pine needles and freshly fallen snow. Nora listened to the gentle murmur of the stream as it danced over the rocks, while her eyes caught sight of deer peacefully grazing at the forest's edge. As they approached the house, Nora noticed it was in need of repairs. The porch leaned to one side, its paint flaking away from the shutters. The garden lay in a chaotic jumble of weeds and unruly roses, yet the structure was built with sturdy bones, featuring strong walls, a straight roof, and windows designed to welcome the morning light. Owen admitted, with a hint of embarrassment, that the house had been devoid of a woman's touch for months. "I have a greater affinity for handling cattle than for tidying up." The wagon arrived at the front porch just as a large yellow dog dashed around the corner of the house, barking joyfully and wagging his tail in excitement. "That's Rusty," Owen remarked as he descended from the wagon. "He's amiable, though perhaps not the sharpest tool in the shed. Keep him out of the house, otherwise he'll devour everything in sight, even the furniture." Nora descended with caution, her legs rigid from the extended journey. Rusty took a whiff of her hands and deemed them satisfactory, showering her with slobbery dog kisses that brought a smile to her face. "When was the last time you found something truly amusing?" Owen inquired, observing her as she gently stroked the dog. Nora halted her laughter, taken aback by the inquiry. "I can't recall." "What a pity." "Your laughter is delightful." Heath ascended Nora's neck. She found it unusual to receive compliments that seemed genuine rather than merely courteous. Owen took hold of her bag from the wagon and made his way to the porch. "Let's take a quick tour before the sun sets." The interior of the house was in a state of even greater disrepair than its exterior. Every surface was cloaked in dust. The kitchen sink was overflowing with a mountain of dishes. Garments are strewn haphazardly over the chairs. It appeared to be a location where hope had faded away. Owen glanced around the cluttered kitchen, his eyes filled with sorrow as he remarked, "This was Sarah's domain. Since her passing, I've been at a loss about how to handle it." Nora strolled to the window above the kitchen sink, her gaze drifting out to the garden beyond. Even in its untamed state, she could discern the careful planning that had been invested in it. Vegetables positioned close to the house for convenient harvesting, herbs by the kitchen entrance, and flowers thoughtfully arranged by hue and stature. Nora described her as a gardener, the finest in the region, capable of nurturing any plant in any location. She believed the key lay in understanding the unique needs of each plant rather than forcing them into a uniform mold. Nora brushed her fingers over a dusty jar resting on the windowsill. It contained an assortment of seeds, beans, and perhaps some squash. "Could I? What may you?" "Engage in gardening activities." When I find a moment, Owen appeared taken aback. "Are you familiar with gardening?" "No, but I'm eager to explore and improve my skills." Nora grasped the seed jar, lifting it to catch the light's glow. Sarah was indeed correct. Various things require distinct attention. Perhaps that holds true for individuals as well. A change flickered across Owen's face. Perhaps it is. He guided her through the remainder of the house, showcasing the front room adorned with a grand stone fireplace, the bedroom designated for her, and the small office where he maintained his ranch records in utter disarray. Amidst the layers of dust and the weight of neglect, Nora discerned the remnants of a love that had once flourished in this space. As they ascended the narrow staircase to the second floor, Owen remarked, "Sarah decorated it all. I had the desire to purchase everything brand new, yet she remarked that a home should evolve alongside its inhabitants, rather than being forced upon them." Nora's room, though compact, was filled with light, featuring windows that opened up to the eastern view of the mountains. A modest bed, a dresser, a chair positioned by the window. Minimalist, yet inviting. "In the chest there are quilts," Owen remarked. "The evenings turn chilly in this place, even as autumn settles in." "Thanks a lot." Nora placed her bag on the bed and surveyed her new surroundings. Residence. When was the last time she had a space that truly felt like home rather than a platform where she acted out the role of a wife? "I'll give you some time to get settled," Owen said. "Dinner will be ready in an hour. Simple and straightforward, just beans and bread." Once he departed, Nora settled onto the bed, grappling with the reality of her life's sudden shift. This morning, she found herself as a homeless woman, possessing only 17 cents and facing an uncertain future. At this moment, she possessed a job, a room, and a flicker of what could be described as hope. As she lifted the lid of the chest, a delightful aroma of lavender and sunshine wafted out, revealing the beautiful quilts inside. As she pulled one out to lay on the bed, a slip of paper tumbled to the ground. Nora picked it up and noticed it was a note penned in graceful script. "Greetings, esteemed visitor. This space has been patiently anticipating the arrival of someone who truly requires it. Show compassion towards Owen. His pain runs deeper than he reveals. The garden holds all the mysteries, waiting for those who truly pay attention. Sarah." Nora perused the note thrice before it finally clicked. Sarah had set it aside for the next person who would follow in her footsteps, as if she had sensed that someone would seek out this space, this sanctuary, this opportunity for a fresh beginning. Beyond her window, the sun dipped below the mountains, casting a rosy hue across the sky. In the distance, she heard Owen summoning the cattle home for the night, his voice echoing across the valley like a melody. For the first time since Logan had cast her aside, Nora sensed that she could finally find a place to call her own. Yet, she was discovering that belonging involved much more than merely having a place to rest her head. Before Nora lay Owen's ranch, an intricate puzzle she had yet to decipher. The wooden fence posts lined up across the undulating hills, where cattle appeared as miniature toys from the vantage of the wagon seat. As they approached the creatures, Nora came to the startling realization that each one towered over her and was heavier than 3 adult men put together. "Those are some of the largest beings I've ever encountered," she murmured, clutching the edge of the wagon as a colossal bull raised its head to gaze at them with deep, inscrutable eyes. Owen let out a laugh, the first real smile she had witnessed from him. Urban dwellers often claim that, yet livestock can be as gentle as kittens when handled with care. Beware of the horses lurking nearby. As if called forth by his very utterance, a stunning black stallion emerged at the pasture fence, tossing his mane and striking the earth with his hooves. Steam billowed from his nostrils in the crisp air, giving him an air of enchantment reminiscent of tales filled with dragons and valiant knights. "That's Thunder," Owen declared, his voice brimming with pride. "The most intelligent horse I've ever encountered, yet he certainly has thoughts on just about everything." Sarah often remarked that he resembled a cantankerous old man rather than a horse. The reference to his deceased wife lingered in the atmosphere around them, thick and heavy like the mist of dawn. Nora felt a strong urge to inquire further about Sarah, yet the look on Owen's face cautioned her to hold back. Certain tales she was discovering required a price to be paid. The house emerged from behind a curve in the dirt road, and Nora felt a heaviness in her chest. The structure tilted gently, as though weary of maintaining its upright posture. The shutters shed their paint like aged skin, while the front porch bowed beneath the burden of shattered furniture and corroded tools. "I realize it may not seem impressive," Owen remarked hastily, observing her reaction. "I haven't found the time to stay on top of repairs since then. Well, ever since Sarah's passing, it's been quite solid. The roof is intact, and the stove is functioning well." Nora descended from the wagon, her legs trembling after the lengthy journey. The stillness here held a quality unlike the hush of the city. In Boston, silence signaled that something was amiss. In this place it seemed instinctive, as if the earth were pausing in anticipation. A chicken meandered through the yard, foraging for unseen delights hidden within the soil. Behind the house, Nora observed a vegetable garden in disarray, with pumpkins sprawling across what had previously been orderly rows. A barn loomed in the distance, its once vibrant red paint now dulled, yet its sturdy frame remained resilient. Owen elaborated, following her gaze, that the chickens are responsible for the eggs. The garden provides us with vegetables throughout the summer season. In the autumn, we process a steer to stock up on meat for the winter months. Nearly all that we require can be cultivated or crafted by our own hands. Nora nodded, although the thought of slaughtering anything bigger than a fish made her sluicasach churn. In Boston, the meat graced her table, presented in tidy portions, elegantly wrapped in pristine paper. She had never thought about its origins, or the effort that went into its preparation. "Where shall I rest?" she inquired, suddenly realizing that she was on the brink of sharing a space with a man she hardly knew. Owen's face flushed with color. A modest room adjacent to the kitchen, originally intended for hired help, Features a comfortable bed and a window that lets in light. The door is equipped with a lock," he added hastily. "Your sense of safety is important to me." The space was more compact than her closet back in Boston, yet it was tidy and dry. A slender bed rested against one wall, adorned with a quilt that displayed the meticulous stitching of tender hands. A washstand displayed a blue ceramic pitcher and bowl, while hooks on the wall provided a place for her limited belongings. From the doorway, Owen remarked, "Sarah crafted that quilt. It took her 2 winters to complete." She referred to the pattern as wedding ring, yet I always perceived it as flowers twirling gracefully in the breeze. Nora traced her fingers along the delicate stitching, envisioning the woman who had labored by the soft glow of lamplight, crafting elegance with each movement of needle and thread. "It's delightful. Do you really want me to go ahead with it?" She designed it for functionality, not for adoration. Sarah often expressed that things are meant to be experienced, not merely observed. On that initial evening, Owen prepared their meal over the wood stove, while Nora observed from the kitchen table, committing each step to memory. The meal consisted of straightforward fare, fried beef, beans, and biscuits that could easily chip a tooth. Yet it was served hot and satisfying, and she felt a sense of gratitude. "Lucasaro, I'll give you a proper tour," Owen said as they wrapped up their meal. "Let me present the animals to you and outline the daily tasks involved. Just a heads up, ranch work kicks off before the sun rises and wraps up long after it sets. The work is quite challenging." Nora squared her shoulders. "I am eager to expand my knowledge." "We'll see," Owen said, his tone warm and reassuring rather than skeptical. That night, Nora rested in Sarah's bed, attuned to the unfamiliar sounds surrounding her. A sound echoed in the shadows. The wind howled through the crevices in the walls. In the distance, an animal emitted a sound that might have been a lament or a melody. She pondered Logan, likely enjoying a meal at his exclusive club, amidst companions who would nod in agreement with his every word. She reflected on her sister Margaret, secure in her Philadelphia parlor, delicately pouring tea from china cups that had never felt the brush of calloused hands. After months of tears, Nora finally found a night of peace, drifting off without sorrow. The morning arrived with a rooster's call that seemed capable of rousing even the most slumbering souls. Nora emerged from her slumber, her limbs protesting against the rigidity of the strange mattress and the jarring journey in the wagon. From her window, she observed Owen bustling about the barn, a lantern in his grasp casting a warm glow in the deepening twilight. She swiftly put on her clothes and rushed to the kitchen, where the coffee awaited her on the stove. It seems Owen completed it prior to embarking on his morning tasks. The kindness behind the gesture enveloped her in warmth, surpassing even the heat of the drink. "Nora," Owen's voice resonated throughout the yard. "Join us to meet the ladies." She discovered him in the chicken coop, a place filled with the scent of hay and an unfamiliar aroma that eluded her senses. Chickens clucked and flitted about his feet while he tossed grain from a bucket. "Ladies, allow me to introduce Nora," he declared with gravity. "From now on, she'll be the one collecting your eggs, so it's wise to mind your manners." "Do you converse with the chickens?" Nora inquired, a hint of amusement dancing in her voice despite the flutter of nerves within her. "Why not, indeed? They are attentive and never counter, in contrast to certain creatures I could bring up." He cast a look toward the pasture where Thunder stood, observing them intently. His ears perked up, as though he grasped the meaning behind each word. Owen demonstrated this technique of reaching beneath the hens for eggs, cautioning her that a few of the birds were broody and might peck at anyone who dared to intrude. Her initial effort led to a stinging ache in her knuckles and a furious squawk from a red hen, who unmistakably regarded the eggs as her own treasured possession. "She really got you," Owen noted, inspecting the scratch. "That is Isabella. She runs the show here and she makes sure everyone is aware of it. Even you, particularly me. I regret naming her after my Aunt Isabella, who was equally cantankerous. It seems the chicken has taken it upon herself to claim this space as her own." Nora let out a laugh, a sound that seemed unfamiliar and long forgotten. When was the last time she shared a laugh with Logan? She found herself at a loss for recollection. The dawn unfolded with a series of teachings. How to milk the 2 cows while avoiding any kicks. Ways to draw water from the well without putting stress on her back. Feeding the horses while ensuring her fingers remain safely distanced from their teeth is essential. Every task uncovered the extent of her ignorance regarding the fundamental aspects of survival. In Boston, domestic staff managed all aspects of household duties, from preparing meals to maintaining cleanliness and running errands. Nora's most significant daily choice revolved around selecting the perfect dress for each social event. "Don't look so defeated," Owen remarked, noticing her battle with the butter churn after lunch. "It's unrealistic to think you can master everything in just a single day. Living on a ranch contrasts with urban living. But it's not more challenging, merely distinct." Nora confessed her confusion, her arms weary from the steady rhythm of churning. Owen rested against the kitchen counter, pondering her question. In the urban landscape, reliance on others becomes essential for every aspect of life. In this place, reliance rests on oneself, family, and the community around you. When something is damaged, you repair it. When hunger strikes, you take to the kitchen. As winter approaches, it's wise to ensure you have ample provisions set aside to carry you through until spring arrives. What happens when you find yourself unable to accomplish something? What happens if you're unsure how to proceed? Then you acquire knowledge, or you exchange efforts with someone who possesses it. Mrs. Henderson, residing in the valley, bakes the finest bread across 3 counties. However, her skills in horseshoeing leave much to be desired. To remedy this, she cleverly exchanges her delicious loaves for horseshoeing services, creating a win-win situation for all involved. Nora reflected on this as she finally accomplished something that could be loosely described as butter. In Boston, whenever she found herself in need of something, she would just buy it without hesitation. The concept of exchanging skills and labor felt simultaneously unfamiliar and enticing. That afternoon, Owen brought her in for an intimate encounter with the cattle. The enormous creatures revealed an unexpected tenderness, permitting her to come close and even caress their warm bodies. A calf adorned with white spots approached curiously, its rough tongue almost toppling her as it chose to sample the fabric of her skirts. Nora marveled as she stroked the calf's soft nose, thinking of them as big dogs. "Keep that to yourself. They possess their dignity." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the mountains in hues of gold and pink, Nora assisted Owen with the evening tasks. Her hands bore the marks of hard work, her back throbbed with fatigue, and her dress was marred by substances she would rather not name. Yet she sensed a feeling that had eluded her for years, the profound fulfillment that comes from meaningful labor. "You performed admirably today," Owen remarked as they strolled back to the house together. "Surpassed my expectations, to be truthful. Did you really believe I would surrender and insist on being returned to town?" An idea flickered through my thoughts. Women from the city often find ranch life unappealing. Nora halted her steps and pivoted to confront him as the shadows deepened around them. "I've moved on from being a city lady, Owen. I may be uncertain about my identity, but I am clear on what I am not." He examined her features illuminated by the warm glow of the kitchen window's lamplight. "What exactly are you?" "I'm a woman with calloused hands and grime beneath my nails, who successfully gathered 3 eggs from Isabella without shedding a drop of blood." "That's more than I was yesterday," Owen smiled, and this time it lit up his eyes. "That's a solid beginning, Nora." "That's an excellent beginning." As they got ready for their second night together, Nora recognized that for the first time since departing from Boston, she was actually eager for what Lucas Oro would bring. There would be additional tasks to tackle, new abilities to hone, and countless opportunities to demonstrate to herself that her strength exceeded her wildest dreams. Yet this evening, there was steaming soup and warm bread, the comforting glow of the kitchen stove, and the serene presence of a man who appeared to grasp that often the most profound act of kindness was merely allowing someone the opportunity to uncover their true self. Thunder's fierce neighing fractured the morning tranquility like shards of glass colliding with rock. Nora shot up in bed, her heart racing as the echo of hoofbeats pounded by her window. From the fragile barriers, she caught the sound of Owen unleashing a torrent of profanity that could leave even the most pious speechless. She slipped into her dress and hurried outside, only to be met with chaos unfolding all around the ranch. The pasture gate stood ajar, its hinges contorted like a shattered wing. Cattle roamed chaotically over the hills, their frantic mooing reverberating against the mountains. Owen stood in the center of the yard, his hat clutched in his hands, gazing at the chaos with the look of someone witnessing the vanishing of his dreams into the distance. What transpired? Nora inhaled sharply, her feet bare and her breath quickened from the sprint. "Someone cut my fence lines," Owen said, his voice eerily steady, betraying the simmering anger he was struggling to contain. Also a professional position. Sharp edges. Everything is positioned perfectly to send a chill through the crowd. Nora directed her attention to the twisted metal strewn across the ground, resembling silver snakes in their chaotic arrangement. The fence posts stood bare and ineffective, their function obliterated in the shadows as they rested. Who would ever consider doing something like that? Owen clenched his jaw. The same individuals who have been attempting to acquire this land for the last year. When a man refuses to sell, there are times when others attempt to persuade him otherwise. The name struck Nora with the force of a sudden chill. "Is it the Baxter Company? You're familiar with them." She nodded thoughtfully, fragments of a puzzle aligning in her thoughts. Logan referred to them in his correspondence. The bank possesses documents related to various land acquisitions they made in the eastern region. He mentioned they were moving west, acquiring ranch properties for the Owen spat in the dirt. Expanding is a gracious way to put it. They arrive with a proposal that seems appealing at first, but soon you understand their intention is to dismantle all that you've created. When people decline to sell, unfortunate events begin to unfold. Fences are breached, water supplies are tainted, and livestock face unfortunate incidents. The burden of comprehension enveloped Nora, wrapping around her like a thick, suffocating shroud. "They believe I have ties to Logan. They believe I could be here to persuade you to sell." "Are you?" The question lingered in the air, tense and charged, and Nora locked eyes with him, noticing the uncertainty that danced within his gaze like a flickering candle in a breeze. 3 weeks of collaborative effort and deepening trust could be shattered by doubt as effortlessly as fences could be breached under the cover of darkness. "Owen Garrett, if my intention were to deceive you into selling your ranch, do you really believe I would begin by mastering the art of milking cows and enduring the pecks of chickens? Wouldn't it be more appealing to flutter my eyelashes and discuss how delightful it would be to have sufficient funds to relocate to a more refined place?" His expression eased just a bit. "That seems to be the more intelligent choice. I've never been labeled as overly clever for my own benefit." Nora waved her hand toward the dispersed cattle. "So, would you prefer to linger here debating my potential hidden allegiances? Or shall we focus on gathering your livestock before they wander off to the next county?" The following 6 hours challenged every muscle Nora had realized she had within her. Herding cattle, she discovered, was far from the enchanting tales that the songs portrayed. The creatures possessed their own thoughts and firm beliefs about their desired destinations, which consistently led them away from where they truly needed to be. Thunder was essential, even with his challenging demeanor. The black stallion appeared to grasp precisely what Owen desired even before the commands were uttered, guiding stray steers and herding them back home with the finesse of an artist executing a delicate choreography. Nora rode Owen gentler mare, a patient brown horse named Molly, who accepted her novice handling with remarkable poise. By noon, they had managed to gather the majority of the scattered herd, although a few animals were still unaccounted for, in the far-off hills. "We'll locate them by Lucasaro," Owen declared, wiping the sweat from his brow as they herded the cattle back into the main pasture. "I must fix these fences before nightfall." Nora dismounted, her legs trembling as if they were made of water, every muscle protesting from the unfamiliar exertion. "How can I assist you? You've accomplished quite a bit today." "This task carries significant risks. Should the wire break under pressure, it has the potential to sever a person completely." "Well, it's fortunate that I don't identify as a man." Owen began to speak up, but then reconsidered his words. "Your stubbornness is as fierce as a storm. Did you realize that?" "I appreciate that remark." They toiled until the sun dipped below the horizon, weaving new wire and repositioning fence posts. Nora's hands were battered from working with the metal, yet she remained undeterred. This ranch was becoming her sanctuary as well, and she refused to remain passive while others sought to ruin it. Just as they completed the final stretch of the fence, a figure emerged on the horizon, riding steadily towards them. Nora shielded her eyes from the fading light, attempting to discern the silhouette moving toward her with a relaxed stride. "That's Samuel Peterson," Owen remarked, identifying the newcomer before Nora had the chance. Operates the distribution further down from this location. A decent fellow, yet he wouldn't come by at this hour unless there was trouble brewing. Samuel Peterson emerged as a seasoned individual in his 50s, possessing gentle eyes and rough hands that told the story of years spent in diligent labor. He politely turned down Owen's invitation for coffee, but graciously accepted a refreshing drink of water from the well. Samuel stated bluntly, "I heard you encountered some difficulties today." The Hendersons experienced the same situation last week, and the Martinez family faced it the week prior. "Did everyone decline to sell to Baxter Company?" Owen inquired. "Each and every one. They are navigating the valley, creating difficulties for anyone unwilling to accept their financial offers." Samuel cast a sidelong look at Nora, his curiosity piqued by the woman collaborating with Owen, yet he held back from inquiring outright. "Samuel Peterson, this is Nora," Owen stated plainly. "She has been instrumental in maintaining the operations of this place." Samuel tipped his hat with a courteous gesture. "Madam, you have chosen a particularly demanding moment to embark on ranching." Nora replied that she's discovering challenges often arise, regardless of whether you choose them or not. The dilemma lies in confronting them or fleeing from the challenge. There was an element in her tone that appeared to address Samuel's silent inquiries. He gave a satisfied nod before redirecting his attention to Owen. "I came over to inform you about the meeting scheduled for Lucasaro night. We're convening at the Henderson residence to deliberate on the situation regarding Baxter Company. It seems like the moment has come to unite, rather than allowing them to take us down individually." Owen assured that he would be there. "Invite the lady as well, if she is open to it. This has an impact on all who reside in the valley at this moment." Once Samuel departed, Nora and Owen settled onto the front porch as the shadows began to deepen around them. Exhausted, I can do nothing but gaze at the stars as they emerge, one by one, in the expansive Montana sky. "Are you reconsidering your decision?" Owen inquired softly. "Regarding my experience here, today was merely a glimpse of what Baxter Company is capable of when they aim to persuade someone to sell." Nora pondered the question with great seriousness. In Boston, whenever confronted with discomfort, she had consistently possessed the choice to withdraw into her sanctuary, among her volumes, within the meticulously crafted facade that misfortunes befall others. In this place, concealment was impossible, and the burden of tough choices rested solely on one pair of shoulders. "Are you trying to make me reconsider?" she inquired, rather than providing a straightforward response. "No," Owen replied without hesitation, then appeared taken aback by his own candor. "Absolutely not. In recent weeks, your presence has transformed this space into a home once more, rather than merely a location for work and rest. In that case, I'm staying put." Baxter Company. Severed enclosures. Dispersed livestock. Nothing alters what I discovered in this place. What is that? Nora gazed over the ranch that was increasingly becoming her own, taking in the repaired fences that showed the evidence of her labor, and the man beside her who had opened the door for her to uncover her own resilience. "Meaning," she stated plainly, "at this moment, I find myself precisely in the place I was meant to be." The following evening, neighbors Nora had yet to encounter, ranchers and their families, convened in the Henderson parlor to deliberate on their shared issue. She anticipated being regarded as an outsider, yet the common danger appeared to eclipse any inquiries regarding her history or her entitlement to be present. Mrs. Henderson poured coffee and sliced the cake as the men engaged in strategic discussions, while the women shared their perspectives, drawing from the hard-earned wisdom of those who had faced profound loss. "They attempted to buy us out 3 times, Maria Martinez stated, a petite figure with intense dark eyes. With every passing moment, the offer diminished while the pressure intensified. "Last week, our water source was poisoned. My youngest son fell ill after drinking from the creek. The law won't help us," added Bob Henderson, a large man with tender hands, who obviously cherished his small, resolute wife. Sheriffs were either purchased or intimidated, perhaps a combination of both. "So, what's our next move?" Owen inquired. "We can't battle them with attorneys if they control the attorneys. Trust in the law is impossible when it has been compromised by those who wield power over it." A voice from the back of the room declared, "We confront them as our grandfathers did." All eyes shifted to the venerable Pete Kowalski, a man of few words, Yet his rare utterances held a weight that demanded respect. Not through weapons, but through solidarity. They rely on us being isolated, dispersed, vulnerable to being taken down individually. What if we were not? "What do you propose, Pete?" Samuel Peterson inquired. "I propose we shift our mindset from that of individual ranchers to one that embraces a sense of community. We collaborate on resources, distribute tasks, and collectively bear the weight of resisting them, ensuring that the cost of trying to displace us outweighs any potential gain." The concept ignited a conversation that continued long into the night. As the meeting came to a close, they had playfully dubbed themselves the Stubborn Ranchers Association, a collective dedicated to sharing labor, resources, and the duty of keeping vigilant against any future acts of sabotage. "Do you understand the implications of this?" Owen remarked as they journeyed home beneath a dazzling expanse of stars, their brilliance making them feel almost within reach. "We are no longer merely advocating for our own ranches. We are embracing our duty for the entire valley." Nora tightened her hold on Molly's reins, still acclimating to the experience of riding in the dark. "Does that concern you? What about the responsibility?" "I find myself concerned about the potential consequences of failure. It's one thing to lose your own home, but when you're also advocating for your neighbors, it becomes a whole different battle." "Then we shall not fail," Nora declared with resolute conviction. "It's as straightforward as that." Owen glanced at her, illuminated by the soft glow of the moonlight. "It sounds like you truly think it can happen." "I must hold on to the belief that it can be achieved. For far too long I allowed others to hold all the power, believing my only options were to yield or flee. I will refrain from doing that again, Owen. Not suitable for Baxter Company. Exclusive to none." As they neared the ranch, Nora spotted something that compelled her to halt Molly. "Owen, take a look at the house." A soft, golden glow radiated from each window, as though every lamp and candle in the house had been ignited. Yet the house remained shrouded in darkness, with no breeze to snuff out the meticulously quenched flames. "There's someone inside," Owen remarked darkly, his hand shifting toward the rifle secured in his saddle scabbard. They moved cautiously, attuned to any sounds or signs of life, yet the house remained still, save for the comforting creak of aged timber adjusting. Owen was the first to dismount, gesturing for Nora to remain behind while he ascended the porch steps. The front door was left slightly open. On the kitchen table there lay an envelope adorned with Owen's name, inscribed in graceful script. Within lay a solitary sheet of luxurious paper, inscribed with a message that sent a chill through Nora's veins. "Mr. Garrett, your delightful guest possesses remarkable discernment when it comes to choosing husbands. Maybe she ought to be more discerning in her choices moving forward. Certain investments produce more favorable returns compared to others. A companion." Nora settled into a chair, the weight of the implications washing over her like a frigid tide. "They are aware of Logan. They understand the reason for my presence. How could they possibly know? Wealth has a voice, particularly when it is in the hands of influential individuals. Logan possesses an extensive network, while Baxter Company wields the means to acquire intelligence." Nora's voice trembled with fury instead of trepidation. "They are using threats to reach you." Owen clenched the letter tightly in his hand. "Let them give it a shot." As they searched the house for any further signs of intrusion, Nora felt an unsettling certainty that their tranquil weeks of creating something together were drawing to a close. The outside world had discovered their existence, and it was ushering in all the complexities she had wished to escape. The pressing inquiry was whether the foundation they had forged together could withstand the impending tempest. Nora's coffee cup shattered on the kitchen floor as Logan's voice floated in through the open window. Her heart raced within her chest like a caged bird as she stealthily approached the side window, glancing through the delicate lace curtains she had crafted just the week before. There he stood, in his impeccable gray suit, the gold watch chain sparkling in the morning sun, as he pointed toward the house with the same authoritative hand that had once dictated every facet of her existence. He was flanked by two other men. One sported a sheriff's badge that gleamed in the light, while the other held a leather folder brimming with official-looking documents. "She's legally my wife," Logan said to Owen, who stood with his arms crossed, obstructing the way to the front door. "I am fully entitled to bring her back to her rightful place." Nora felt a parched sensation in her mouth. The sheriff implied that Logan had acted on his warning, The legal framework that had consistently failed to shield her from her husband's indifference now seemed poised to thrust her back under his dominion. "Rights on paper hold little weight if the woman chooses not to leave," Owen responded, his tone unwavering like stone. "Nora exercises her autonomy in this situation." A figure approached, revealing a document that resembled something from a courtroom. "Mr. Garrett, I regret to inform you that the legal framework on this issue is unequivocal. Mrs. Henley departed from Boston without her husband's consent, taking belongings that rightfully belonged to the Henley household." "Which items are you referring to?" Owen inquired. Logan offered that chilling smile that Nora recalled all too vividly. "Her gown for the occasion. I'd bet this family heirloom holds far greater value than the ranch itself. A collection of jewelry items. Volumes from my private collection." Nora's hands darted to her throat. The sole piece of jewelry she adorned was her mother's unadorned silver locket, the one cherished item she possessed prior to her marriage. The books Logan referred to were her cherished childhood favorites that she introduced into their marriage. The wedding dress rested in a trunk, its fabric in shambles, marred by tears and the wear of journeys. The sheriff's voice carried a blend of regret and authority as he stated, "You'll need to allow me to search the premises." Owen stated that if there is stolen property on these grounds, then nothing is actually stolen here. Yet Nora could sense the doubt seeping into his tone. How could he possibly anticipate what Logan might assert? How could he shield her from regulations crafted by men such as her spouse? A new voice emerged from behind the house, suggesting, "I believe we should resolve this peacefully." Nora felt a wave of dread wash over her as she spotted Mrs. Fletcher, the town's infamous gossip, making her way over with two other women following closely behind. Poor Nora has endured more than her fair share of scandal already. The women displayed the same expression Nora recalled from Boston, their faces meticulously composed, revealing that they had already determined her fate without considering her perspective. Their arrival ensured that the whole town would be aware of this clash before the sun dipped below the horizon. "Mrs. Fletcher," Logan remarked, tipping his hat with practiced charm, "it's truly thoughtful of you to take an interest in my wife's well-being. As you can see, I've arrived to take her home where she can get the care she truly deserves." "Proper care," Mrs. Fletcher reiterated, her eyes sparkling with the excitement of new intrigue. Indeed, it's a topic that has piqued everyone's curiosity regarding the arrangements in place. Nora felt her cheeks flush as she found herself living temporarily with a widowed man, a situation that stirred a mix of emotions within her. She had immersed herself in the pursuit of a fresh start, only to realize how swiftly rumors could tarnish a woman's standing. In this quaint little town, what people believed held greater weight than what was actually real. "Everything has been above board," Owen asserted with conviction. Yet Nora noticed the way the other women shared knowing looks. In their minds, her guilt had been firmly established. "Absolutely not," Logan replied with a calm demeanor. "Nora has consistently embodied the essence of virtue, which is exactly why she is suited for Boston, immersed in respectable society." Instead, he waved off the ranch with a dismissive gesture. Nora pressed her back against the kitchen wall, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of the situation unfolding before her. She could remain in the shadows, allowing the men to determine her destiny, as was the expectation for women. She could yield to Logan and revert to a life of muted despair, or she could step outside and battle for the first joy she had ever experienced. The kitchen door resisted her efforts, feeling as weighty as a mountain as she attempted to push it open. "Nora!" Logan declared, his expression brightening with an actor's flawless delight. "My dear, I was so relieved when you returned from Boston. I had dreaded the worst during your absence. I've been consumed by anxiety." All eyes in the yard were drawn to her. Nora sensed their gazes pressing down on her, evaluating, scrutinizing, determining if she was a victim to be sympathized with or a disruptor to be managed. She spoke softly. "You told me our marriage was over. Your letter expressed that you could no longer maintain the pretense." Logan's expression transformed into one of tender worry. "My dear, there seems to be a misunderstanding. My frustration stemmed from business issues, not from our relationship. Of course, you understand that I could never forsake my cherished partner." The sheriff took a moment to clear his throat. "If you could kindly collect your things, we can resolve this matter swiftly." "What if I choose not to attend?" Nora inquired. "Desire?" Mrs. Fletcher's laughter rang out, sharp and crystalline, reminiscent of shattering glass. Desire holds no relevance in the context of marriage. You pledged your promises in the presence of the divine and your community. Those promises don't vanish simply because you choose to pretend with someone else. Owen stated firmly that Nora has always acted with honor. She has put in tremendous effort, made significant contributions to this ranch, and is worthy of respect. Honor? The gentleman holding the legal documents appeared quite entertained. Mr. Garrett, with all due respect, you have been keeping another man's wife. In many jurisdictions, that could lead to significant legal consequences. Nora noticed the tension in Owen's jaw. Her mere presence was unraveling everything he held dear. Her struggles were increasingly becoming his own, and before long, the entire community would rally against him for standing by her side. "I'll go," she declared unexpectedly. "Please allow me a moment to gather my belongings." "Nora." "No," Owen said. Yet she could sense the relief intertwined with his objection. A part of him must have recognized that this was the rational decision. She pivoted towards the house, yet Logan grasped her arm. His hold was soft enough that the onlookers would perceive nothing amiss, yet his fingers dug into her skin with a sense of ownership that felt all too familiar. "I knew you'd come to your senses," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. "We will board the afternoon train returning to Boston. Your ticket has already been purchased." The implication in those words, that he had anticipated her surrender, that he had meticulously orchestrated her defeat down to the train schedule, ignited a fierce anger within Nora, coursing through her veins like a bolt of lightning. "Release my arm," she insisted. "Nora, you're being quite challenging. These kind individuals don't require you to display such dramatic behavior." I insisted. "Release it." Logan's hold grew firmer. "Quiet down, please. You're making quite a spectacle of yourself." "The only thing truly embarrassing," Nora declared, her voice carrying for all to hear, "is a man who discards his wife as if she were nothing more than refuse, then has the audacity to expect gratitude when he suddenly decides he wants her back." Whispers of surprise spread among the gathered onlookers. Wives refrained from addressing their husbands in such a manner, particularly in public settings. Nora was shattering all conventions of decorum, and she realized she felt no remorse. "You wrote me a letter," she continued, breaking away from Logan's hold. "You expressed that I was a letdown. You mentioned that I was dull and expressed regret about our marriage. You handed me $50 and instructed me to plan for my future as you were finished with the facade of happiness." "That's enough," Logan declared, his facade of gentle concern finally faltering. "You seem quite distressed. Officer, kindly guide my wife to the wagon." "Wait a moment," the sheriff said with a hint of unease. "If the lady expresses dissatisfaction with her treatment, her concerns hold no significance." The individual holding the documents interjected. "Marriage is acknowledged by the law as a binding agreement. Emotional sentiments do not negate legal responsibilities." Nora surveyed the expressions of those around her, noting the mix of curiosity, disapproval, and genuine concern reflected in their eyes. These individuals would determine her destiny according to their perceptions of morality, yet none had experienced her journey. "Are you interested in discussing legal responsibilities?" she inquired. "What is a husband's duty to support his wife?" Logan handed me $50 and instructed me to vanish. What of his duty to respect and hold dear? He allocated more funds to his cigars each month than he ever devoted to me. The legal man remarked with a hint of dismissal that financial disputes could be settled between husband and wife. "The essence is that you are his wife, and wives are meant to be with their husbands. What if their husbands are not interested?" Even then, the stark harshness of those two words lingered in the atmosphere like a thick fog. Even in those moments, even when feeling unloved, unwanted, and cast aside like a broken piece of furniture, the aspirations of a wife held no significance. The joy of a wife held no significance. A wife was there to meet her husband's desires, putting aside her own. Nora met Owen's gaze, his steady gray eyes fixed intently on her. He made no demands of her. He wasn't pressuring her to remain or leave. He patiently awaited her choice, prepared to back her decision, whatever it may be. "I will not go," she stated firmly. "I refuse to go back to a marriage in which I felt like a burden that was unwanted. I refuse to live my life feigning appreciation for mere fragments of love." Logan's expression grew somber. Your options are limited in this situation. Indeed she does, Owen replied softly. This is American land, not a realm from the past. Women possess rights in this place. Which rights? Logan chuckled. The freedom to prepare your own food and cozy up in your own space? This isn't about Nora's freedom, so let's not pretend otherwise. You desire her for the same reason any man desires a woman. The insult lingered in the atmosphere, daring a response. Nora observed Owen's hands ball into fists, noticed the muscle in his jaw quiver with tightly restrained fury. That's not true, she interjected before Owen had a chance to reply. Owen has always regarded me as an equal partner. He appreciates my insights, honors my contributions, and regards me as an individual rather than an object. How moving, Logan remarked with a hint of sarcasm. Yet it doesn't alter the reality. You are my beloved, Nora. You carry my name with you. You pledged your promises to me in the presence of the divine. Your vows retain their significance regardless of any romantic feelings you may have for another man. Nora suddenly exclaimed, You're right, I did make promises. I pledged to love, honor, and obey you, yet you made promises as well, Logan. You vowed to love and hold me dear through illness and wellness, in good times and bad. When was the last time you upheld those commitments? Nora continued, leaving Logan poised to reply, but her words flowed on. When did you last inquire about my happiness? When was the last time you saw me as anything beyond just an ornament in your dining room? You violated our marriage vows long before I departed from Boston. You simply anticipate that I will continue to uphold my commitments. The audience stood in hushed disbelief, grappling with the unexpected exposure of what ought to have remained behind closed doors. Nora observed the uncertainty settling on certain faces, the realization that maybe there were multiple perspectives to this narrative. That's enough, Logan stated with a cutting tone. Sheriff, I insist that you take this man into custody for possessing stolen property and for interfering in my marriage. I expect my wife to be returned to me without delay. Ma'am, the sheriff said with a weighty tone, I regret to inform you that the law favors your husband. If you refuse to cooperate, I will be forced to— What will you have to do? Nora inquired. Take me to the train station, bind me, and toss me into a wagon? Is that the face of justice in Montana Territory? The sheriff's face flushed with color. Now, dear lady, it won't reach that point if you could just be sensible. That makes sense, Nora reiterated. It's quite absurd for a man to leave his wife and then expect her to come back when it suits him. It's justifiable for the legal system to regard women as property. However, it seems unfair for a woman to determine her own direction. She surveyed the expressions directed at her, noting the mix of hostility, confusion, and the faint glimmers of comprehension in a select few. Mrs. Fletcher's stern expression had eased a bit, and one of the younger women was nodding gently. Nora posed a question to everyone present. If your spouse penned a letter declaring the end of your marriage, handed you $50, and instructed you to sort things out on your own, how would you respond? Would you return home and act as if nothing occurred? Would you remain steadfast as you await his change of heart? That's different, Mrs. Fletcher remarked, though her tone no longer carried the same conviction as before. What sets it apart? Well, that is, my partner would never— Your husband may never understand, Nora conceded, but mine did. And now he expects me to act as if it never occurred. He expects me to go back to a marriage where I was never wanted, already cast aside, already informed that I was a burden he couldn't handle. She pivoted to confront Logan head-on. I refuse to proceed with that. I refuse to live my life tiptoeing around, constantly anxious about when you might find me bothersome once more. I refuse to feign appreciation for a love that fluctuates with your emotions. You don't have a choice, Logan stated, though his tone had diminished in assurance compared to before. Nora declared that she was in the process of making a choice at that moment. I opt to remain in this place, where my worth is recognized for my true self, rather than for my contributions to others. I opt to put in the effort and carve out my own space in the world, instead of living as a mere possession of another. The law, the man with the documents, commenced. Nora stated plainly that the law is unjust, and one day, a sufficient number of people will see it that way and bring about change. However, until that moment arrives, I shall adhere to a greater principle, one that affirms every individual's entitlement to seek joy, to be treated with respect, and to exit circumstances that cause them harm. The stillness lingered, taut and expectant. Nora felt her heartbeat echoing in her ears, the weight of every gaze pressing down on her, the moment teetering precariously on the brink. Then Owen moved ahead, placing himself in front of Nora to shield her from the men intent on taking her away. "The woman has made her decision," he stated softly, "and I will support it." The fading sound of wagon wheels drifted away, leaving a silence so profound that Nora could distinctly hear her own breath. Logan had departed, taking the sheriff and the man carrying his legal documents with him. Yet their threats loomed ominously, reminiscent of dark storm clouds gathering on the horizon. They would return, Logan had assured. They would come back with greater authority, enhanced legal power, and a larger force to uphold laws that regarded women as mere property. Nora perched on the porch steps, her legs trembling beneath her, struggling to bear her weight. The clash had sapped all her energy, rendering her as limp as a doll that had been emptied of its filling. Mrs. Fletcher and the other women left in haste once Logan's wagon was out of sight, their expressions meticulously neutral to conceal their reflections on the scene they had just observed. "You know what this means," Owen said softly, taking a seat next to her on the wooden steps. "Rumors will circulate and individuals will align themselves. Some may perceive you as a wife who has fled and requires being brought back to her spouse. Some may grasp the truth, yet they will hesitate to voice it openly." Nora nodded, her gaze fixed on her hands. The skin bore a rougher texture now than it had 3 months prior, a testament to diligent labor and the relentless forces of nature. Those hands no longer resembled the delicate fair touch of a Boston lady. They were owned by an individual skilled in milking cows, repairing fences, and baking bread from the ground up. "I've destroyed everything for you," she said. "Your standing in the community, your reputation in town. Others may perceive you as someone who takes another man's partner. Let them believe whatever they wish," Owen responded. "I am aware of my identity, and you are too. That will suffice." Yet Nora understood that it fell short. In tight-knit communities such as this, reputation held greater weight than reality. A man's promise held weight. Yet now Owen's promise faced scrutiny because of her. Neighbors could cease their exchanges with him. The bank could raise concerns about his loans. The very bedrock of his existence might shatter due to his decision to stand by her side. "Perhaps I ought to have gone," she murmured gently. "Perhaps it would have been simpler for all if I merely do not." Owen's voice had a cutting tone she had never encountered before. "Do not even begin to entertain those thoughts. What may seem simple isn't necessarily correct, and what is permitted doesn't always align with fairness." He rose to his feet and made his way to the porch railing, clutching it firmly with both hands while gazing out at the mountains. "I witnessed my first wife's slow decline, each day bringing more heartache, and I felt utterly powerless to help her. Today, I found myself in a position to make a difference for someone in need, to advocate for justice rather than opting for ease. I stand by my decision to seize that opportunity." Nora sensed the sting of tears welling up in her eyes. "What if they return with a larger force? What happens if they take you in for sheltering someone on the run or whatever legal jargon they choose to apply?" "I'll handle that when the time comes," Owen replied matter-of-factly. "However, I refuse to dwell in apprehension of what could happen. For countless months following Sarah's passing, I merely went through the motions of life, merely existing from one day to the next, without truly embracing life. I refuse to return to that." He pivoted to meet her gaze, his gray eyes filled with intensity. "What is it that you wish to pursue? Focus on what you truly desire, rather than what others expect, or what seems most convenient for everyone involved. Imagine crafting the perfect life for yourself. What would it entail?" Nora shut her eyes, envisioning a realm where her choices were limitless. In that realm, she envisioned herself perpetually rising in this dwelling, to enjoy a cup of coffee with Owen as the morning light begins to shine, to nurture the garden and oversee the household finances, embracing the role of a collaborator rather than a hindrance. In that realm, she had the power to create something significant with her own hands, rather than merely serving as an ornament in another's existence. "I want to stay," she said at last. "However, my desire is to ensure it is done correctly. I seek a path that safeguards your well-being and keeps you clear of any legal complications. Owen gave a slow nod. We must approach this with intelligence. Logan is correct about one aspect. The law supports him as long as you are legally his spouse. However, there could be alternative approaches to consider. Could you clarify what you mean? We should consult with individuals who possess greater expertise in legal issues than ourselves. Explore the possibilities available for women in your circumstances. Options may exist to contest the marriage or pursue safeguards under local legislation. Nora experienced a flicker of optimism. Do you believe there's a genuine possibility? There's always a possibility if you're ready to put in the effort, Owen remarked. However, it will not be a simple task. We require supporters, individuals who share our vision and are ready to stand alongside us. In the days that followed, Nora realized that support could emerge from the most surprising sources. Dr. Marcus Webb, the town's physician, visited the ranch under the guise of checking on Nora's health, but his true intention was to extend his support. He had witnessed countless women ensnared in unions that gradually shattered their souls, he remarked. If Nora required someone to speak on her mental and physical state, he would willingly step forward. Martha Priscall, who managed the town's general store alongside her husband, stopped by with fresh eggs and a gentle assurance that whatever Nora required from the store would always be at her disposal, no matter what others might think. Martha experienced the loss of her spouse at a young age and had to navigate the challenges of self-sufficiency for several years prior to finding love again. She grasped the significance of a woman asserting her independence. What truly took me aback was the arrival of Father Miguel, the itinerant priest dedicated to ministering to the dispersed Catholic families throughout the region. After a private conversation with Owen that lasted more than an hour, he emerged with a contemplative expression rather than one of judgment. He conveyed to Nora that the Church holds marriage as sacred, yet it also emphasizes that love and human dignity are equally sacred. At times, these teachings may clash, compelling us to decide which revered principle to uphold above all others. The discussions inspired Nora, yet they also highlighted the extent of her journey in crafting a life that truly reflected her own values. After years of adhering to the expectations set by others, she found herself uncertain about how to forge her own path. Owen appeared to grasp this instinctively. He started to engage her more thoroughly in the ranch's business choices, guiding her in reading the account books and grasping the seasonal patterns of cattle raising. When neighboring ranchers visited to talk about water rights or fence repairs, he made sure to include her in the discussions as an equal partner, instead of sending her off to handle traditional tasks. He noted one evening, as they examined the ranch's finances by lamplight, that you possess a keen understanding of numbers and pose inquiries that never crossed his mind. Our collaboration is truly effective. Nora lifted her gaze from the ledger she had been engrossed in. Are you truly saying that? Or are you merely attempting to give me a sense of purpose? I'm serious about this, Owen stated with conviction. Your contributions have transformed this space in ways that extend far beyond just culinary and housekeeping efforts. Your insights have shifted my perspective on organizing tasks and planning ahead. Before you arrived, I was merely getting by. At this moment, it truly feels as though I'm experiencing life to the fullest once more. The sincerity in his voice caused a wave of emotion to swell in Nora's chest. I share that sentiment. For the very first time, I sense that I hold significance. My thoughts and opinions hold significance. They hold significant worth, Owen asserted with conviction. And anyone who fails to recognize that is a fool. That evening, Nora rested in her cramped bed within the tiny room adjacent to the kitchen, contemplating what lay ahead. Logan would come back in due time. She held that belief with unwavering conviction. He was far too proud to acknowledge defeat, far too used to having things his way to just surrender and head home. Upon his return, he would unleash greater legal pressure, intensified social pressure, and additional tactics to compel her into submission. Yet, she had transformed from the woman he attempted to pull away just a week prior. Each day at the ranch fortified her spirit, enhancing her confidence in her decisions and affirming her belief that she was worthy of a life beyond mere survival. She discovered that her efforts could lead to significant contributions to a cause greater than her own. She realized that respect held greater worth than security, and that partnership offered deeper fulfillment than mere protection. Above all, she discovered that her value was not defined by another person's wish to have her in their life. Her worth was inherent, rooted in her very existence, in her ability to think, feel, contribute, and show care. That understanding served as a shield against the myriad ways the world sought to convey that women were somehow incomplete. The following morning arrived with a letter that transformed everything. As Owen stepped outside to tackle the morning chores, he noticed something had slipped under the front door. His expression darkened as he passed it to Nora. "Is this from Logan?" she inquired, noting the luxurious stationery and the elegant script. "Just read it," Owen stated plainly. Nora carefully opened the letter, her hands shaking with anticipation. "Nora, as you appear resolute in continuing this misguided defiance, I have chosen to streamline matters for our mutual benefit. I am initiating divorce proceedings based on desertion and infidelity. When you get this letter, the documents will have already been submitted to the court in Boston. This decision will undoubtedly tarnish your reputation beyond repair. A divorced woman may struggle to gain acceptance from respectable families, and finding suitable employment could prove to be quite challenging. Yet, maybe that is precisely your intention, to incinerate every connection to the realm of civilized society. I have also communicated with the local authorities regarding your theft of personal property. Any attempt to sell or dispose of items that are part of our household will result in criminal charges. Think of yourself as liberated, Nora. I trust you will come to see that freedom holds no value, just as I believe it will. Is that you, Logan?" Nora perused the letter once, then again, and finally a third time, allowing the complete significance to settle in her mind. Logan was ending their marriage. He was severing all ties, incinerating every connection with the same nonchalant ruthlessness he had displayed in his initial correspondence. "He's liberating me," she murmured, scarcely able to accept the reality of it. "It seems that way," Owen remarked, "although he's attempting to frame it as a consequence." Nora erupted into laughter, a melody of unfiltered relief rising from deep within her. "Is this a consequence? He's providing me with precisely what I sought, the legal liberation from a marriage that had long since ended. He believes he's breaking me down, but in reality, he's rescuing me." Owen beamed at her happiness, yet his demeanor stayed wary. It's a bit more complex than that. Divorce often comes with a societal burden, particularly for women. No matter the situation, some individuals will find a way to place blame on you. "Let them blame me," Nora said as she meticulously folded the letter. "I would choose freedom and criticism over a life of unhappiness in marriage. Moreover, I have no need for the validation of those who would criticize my decision to exit an unfulfilling marriage." For the first time since Logan had shown up at their door, Nora felt a genuine sense of hope. The legal struggle she had been fearing would not come to pass. She could avoid the need to establish her argument in a courtroom or deal with intricate regional regulations. Logan's pride achieved what her courage alone might not have. It liberated her. Owen spoke softly, revealing another thought. "I have a question for you now that the circumstances have shifted." Nora glanced at him, observing the doubt etched on his face. "What is it exactly? I understand that your experience with marriage has been incredibly challenging. I understand why you might feel hesitant about making that kind of commitment once more. Yet, I am aware that what exists here is unique. We're already united in every way that matters, except for the title." He hesitated, sifting through his thoughts for the perfect expression. "Whenever the time feels right for you, I would love to propose that we get married. Not due to societal expectations, not for the sake of protection or the need for a housekeeper, but simply because I love you. I aspire to create a life alongside you, where we share equality in all aspects." Nora experienced a sudden flutter in her chest. This was entirely different from Logan's proposal, which felt more like an announcement than a genuine request. Owen presented her with an opportunity, a collaboration, a future founded on shared respect and authentic warmth. "Indeed," she replied with simplicity. "Once the divorce is finalized and I have the legal freedom to make that decision, absolutely. I desire nothing more than to be your wife, your true wife, your equal partner, your chosen companion." Owen's smile radiated warmth, illuminating the darkness that had lingered for so long. He embraced her tightly, drawing her near as the soft morning light poured through the kitchen windows. Outside, the world was stirring to life, brimming with opportunities, and for the first time, Nora sensed a readiness to welcome whatever lay ahead. She had shed the chains of being someone else's discarded possession. She was a woman who carved her own journey, battled for her own liberation, and discovered her own value. That understanding would carry her through any obstacles that might come her way. The shotgun blast shattered the stillness of the December morning, echoing like thunder and causing snow to cascade from the pine branches overhead just above Nora's head. She halted on the cabin steps, her heart pounding against her ribs as Owen stormed through the door behind her, rifle in hand, his expression etched with a severity she had never witnessed before. "Come inside," he murmured, his gaze sweeping the tree line where shadowy figures flitted between the trunks. Nora chose not to engage in any argument. She had acquired sufficient knowledge about ranch life to understand that when Owen Garrett used that tone, it was imperative to pay attention. The cozy embrace of the cabin enveloped her, yet a tremor coursed through her as she huddled against the wall next to the window. Through the frosted glass, she observed Owen traverse the yard, each step deliberate, a testament to his awareness of lurking peril. "Wolfpack!" he called back to her, his voice echoing through the cool, clear air. Significant. They've been raiding ranches all week, searching for effortless sustenance before the harshness of winter arrives. The wedding was meant to take place today. Reverend Mills set out from town yesterday, muttering about the weather while clutching his tattered Bible and the legal documents that would formalize Nora's new beginning. He was likely huddled by their fire at this very moment, anticipating a ceremony that could be canceled if those wolves deemed the ranch a suitable hunting ground. Another shot echoed, this time nearer. Nora caught a glimpse of Owen yelling something unintelligible, soon accompanied by the hurried sound of footsteps. Her hands grasped the heavy iron poker by the fireplace, holding it so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Though she hailed from the city, she was far from defenseless. That's no longer the case. The door burst open, and Owen staggered in, gasping for breath, snow dripping from his dark hair. "They've vanished," he remarked, leaning his rifle against the wall. "At this moment. Yet they shall return as the sun sets." "What's the status of the wedding?" Nora inquired, loathing the way her voice seemed so diminutive. Owen gazed at her, poised in Sarah's blue dress, the one she had meticulously altered over 3 days to suit her petite figure. A gentle warmth flickered in his storm-gray eyes. "Reverend Mills possesses a resilience that is as enduring as time-worn leather. He's united couples amidst Indian raids and blizzards fierce enough to freeze a man solid. A handful of wolves won't drive him away." Yet as he uttered those words, an unspoken understanding lingered between them. This was far from the vision they had both held for their wedding day. Nora envisioned a scene that was both uncomplicated and stunning, perhaps adorned with wildflowers and bathed in sunlight, embodying the essence of a world rejoicing in their decision to create a life together. Instead, she gripped a poker as if it were a weapon, while wolves lurked outside and the wind howled through the crevices in the cabin walls. "Perhaps we ought to hold off," she remarked, the words leaving a sour sensation on her tongue, "until spring, when the weather is more pleasant and fresh." "Negative." Owen swiftly crossed the room, taking her hands in his grasp, confident and assured. "It's time for me to embrace life once more. We each have. If we're going to embark on this journey, we must ensure we do it with precision and excellence. Wolves or not wolves." The ceremony unfolded in the kitchen, with Reverend Mills positioned between the stove and the table, while Nora and Owen stood facing one another across a space infused with the aromas of coffee, bacon, and the soap Nora employed to clean the floors. The preacher's voice resonated powerfully, cutting through the wind as he recited words about love and commitment. In that space, where every item reflected the daily labor of nurturing one another, those words felt profoundly significant. "Do you, Owen Garrett, accept Nora as your beloved wife?" "I do," Owen said, and Nora sensed in those 2 words everything he had kept unspoken, the solitude he had borne since Sarah's passing, the flicker of hope that had started to emerge once more, the assurance that she would never have to confront the world by herself. "Do you, Nora, choose Owen to be your husband?" "I do," she whispered, her heart fully committed to the words. The kiss was gentle and tender, imbued with the essence of what was yet to come. Yet before either could utter another syllable, the chilling howl from the forest pierced the air, closer than ever. They were all reminded that this was Montana territory in the heart of winter, where love was a battle waged daily. The ensuing weeks challenged them in ways Nora had never envisioned. The wolves returned time and again, compelling Owen to seek refuge in the barn with the cattle, while Nora remained in the cabin, a loaded shotgun resting across her knees. The biting cold was so intense it shattered the windows and transformed the water in the wash basin into solid ice. Their food supplies dwindled more than Owen had anticipated, and on several occasions, Nora went to bed with an empty sluica sack so he could muster the strength needed for the arduous tasks that sustained them all. Yet amidst all that struggle, something beautiful started to emerge. Nora became attuned to the subtle cues that indicated Owen's anxiety, like the way he rubbed the back of his neck when he believed she was unaware, and the meticulous manner in which he tallied their dwindling supplies. Owen became attuned to the moments when Nora was putting forth extra effort to appear strong, and he would subtly find ways to reassure her that she didn't have to bear the weight of everything by herself. They crafted a silent dialogue of glances and gestures that conveyed meaning beyond mere speech. As the blizzard raged on for 6 consecutive days, trapping them within the confines of the cabin, they found solace in conversation. Hours slipped away as they delved into discussions about everything and nothing, reminiscing about their childhoods, sharing their dreams, and reflecting on the small daily miracles that rendered life meaningful, even in its most challenging moments. "I never mentioned my sister Ruth," Nora said one evening as they sat by the fire, her head resting on Owen's shoulder while the wind rattled the shutters. She was 2 years my senior, and her piano playing was nothing short of angelic. Mother always believed that Ruth was destined to wed a wealthy man, residing in a grand mansion adorned with servants and exquisite attire. "What transpired with her?" Owen inquired, his voice resonating deeply from within. "At the age of 16, she was claimed by fever. Following that, I transformed into the daughter destined to secure a prosperous marriage, tasked with fulfilling all the aspirations that perished alongside Ruth." Nora sat in silence, her gaze fixed on the flickering flames in the fireplace. "I dedicated countless years striving to become the individual my family expected me to be. After that, I dedicated more years to becoming the partner Logan desired. I overlooked the individual hidden beneath all those demands." Owen's arm wrapped securely around her. "What type of individual?" Nora smiled, a sensation of lightness and freedom blossoming within her chest. "The type who enjoys immersing herself in the soil of the garden. The type that believes coffee is more enjoyable when brewed robustly enough to rouse the lifeless. The type who prefers to repair a fence instead of lounging in a parlor engaging in trivial small talk." "Good thing," Owen remarked, gently placing a kiss on the crown of her head. "That's precisely the type of individual I require." The arrival of spring thaw introduced a set of unique challenges. The creek overflowed, eroding a section of their pasture fence and necessitating the relocation of the cattle to elevated terrain. Nora struggled through 3 batches of bread before she finally mastered the art of baking with the unpredictable old stove. Owen fell ill with pneumonia, confined to bed for 2 weeks, while Nora took on the morning chores alone, her hands becoming raw and bleeding by the time he was strong enough to assist her once more. However, they experienced their initial genuine triumph as the vegetable garden Nora cultivated yielded an abundance of food beyond their consumption. She mastered the art of preserving vegetables in glass jars, creating orderly rows of green beans, carrots, and beets in the cellar that would sustain them through the coming winter. Owen guided her in riding his gentlest mare, and by summer, she was able to check the fence lines nearly as proficiently as he could. The neighbors started to view them as a genuine couple instead of a source of gossip. Mrs. Henderson from the neighboring ranch began delivering fabric scraps and recipes to Nora. Old Jake Morrison, once doubtful of a city woman thriving on a ranch, tipped his hat to Nora as he watched her herd cattle with the ease of someone who was truly meant for it. However, the true challenge emerged in August, when a letter appeared, marked from Boston, bearing Nora's maiden name in a handwriting that sent a shiver through her, unrelated to the chill in the air. Owen discovered her on the porch steps, the unopened letter quivering in her grasp, tears cascading down her cheeks. He remained silent, taking a seat next to her, patiently waiting for the moment she would share what had so thoroughly taken her breath away. "It's from Logan," she finally murmured. Despite it all, despite the divorce papers and the new marriage, He still refuses to release me. Owen snatched the letter from her grasp and ripped it into shreds without a glance, allowing the wind to disperse the remnants across the yard like drifting snowflakes. What he has to say holds no significance now, he stated with conviction. You are not the woman who departed from Boston. Nora Garrett has taken the reins, and she no longer needs to heed a word from Logan Henley. That night, as they lay in bed, the sounds of the ranch enveloped them. The soft lowing of cattle in the distance, the creek's gentle babble over stones, and an owl calling from the barn. In that moment, Nora felt a realization swell within her, making her heart feel larger than her chest could contain. She felt a sense of belonging, not only in her surroundings but also within herself, embracing the life she had crafted. Each day was a testament to the extraordinary gift of being cherished for her true self, rather than conforming to someone else's expectations. For the first time since her childhood, Nora Garrett drifted off to sleep free from the burdens of Lucas sorrow. The piercing scream that broke the morning's stillness jolted Owen Bolt awake, his hand instinctively moving toward the rifle resting next to the headboard. Yet this wasn't a sound of peril. It was sheer delight, the sort of noise that could only emanate from someone unearthing something extraordinary beyond their most fervent aspirations. Nora lingered in the doorway of their bedroom, her face radiating a light Owen had never encountered, one hand resting gently on her still flat belly, the other clutching a letter that quivered in her trembling grasp. "Owen," she murmured, her voice trembling as she spoke his name. "I'm expecting a little one." The word struck him with the force of a blow, stealing the breath from his lungs and causing his heart to falter in his chest. For a brief instant, he found himself frozen, unable to move, think, or do anything other than gaze at his wife as if she had just revealed an astonishing secret. Then reality surged over him in tumultuous waves, joy and terror and hope and fear intertwined until he could no longer discern where one emotion faded and another emerged. "Do you really think so?" he inquired, his voice thick with feeling. Nora nodded, her laughter mingling with tears that glimmered like diamonds on her cheeks. "Yesterday I visited town and received confirmation from Dr. Patterson. I wanted to hold off until I was completely sure before sharing this with you. Owen, we are about to embark on the incredible journey of parenthood." He moved across the room in just 2 strides, lifting her into his embrace, twirling her around until they were both lightheaded, caught in a whirlwind of laughter and tears. As he gently placed her down, his hands lingered on her face, capturing every nuance of this moment. The way the morning light danced in her hair, the awe reflected in her eyes, the smile that seemed to radiate from her very core. "I believed that after Sarah's passing, this moment would be out of reach for me," he expressed, his voice heavy with tears he was unafraid to let fall. "I believed I had exhausted every opportunity for joy." "We have another chance," Nora said gently, placing her hands over his. "We have the opportunity to create something fresh together, something that is ours to share." Yet, as they embraced and envisioned what lay ahead, neither could foresee the profound transformation that awaited them. The journey of pregnancy was challenging. Nora endured the initial 3 months in such a state of illness that she struggled to retain even water, much less the nourishing dishes she had mastered for Owen. He assumed the majority of the household tasks without a word of discontent, although his laundry efforts resulted in a rather odd gray hue for their clothes, and his culinary skills could generously be labeled as satisfying rather than flavorful. He reminded her one morning, as he served her weak tea and dry toast, the only things her sluicsac could handle, that he had married her for better or worse. This surely qualifies as worse, so I believe I'm honing my skills and maintaining my commitments. As autumn transitioned into winter, Nora regained her strength, yet fresh concerns emerged in its stead. The closest physician was a 2-day journey on horseback, and the winter storms had the potential to render the roads untraversable for weeks on end. What if something doesn't go as planned? What happens if the baby arrives ahead of schedule? What if she found herself overwhelmed by the pain, unsure of how to cope, or faced the heartbreaking reality of losing the child like so many women have in this unforgiving land? On a snowy December evening, Owen must have noticed the fear reflected in her eyes, for he decided to surprise her with an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Elena Rodriguez approached their cabin on a robust mare, her saddlebags filled to the brim with supplies, and her seasoned face adorned with a smile that inspired immediate trust in those who saw her. "Your husband conveyed that you may require assistance," she remarked in a lilting accent, dismounting with the grace of one who had been riding horses longer than she had been walking. "I have brought more lives into the world than I can remember, including my own 6 little ones. Would it be all right if an elderly lady stayed for a bit?" Before relocating to the north to establish a ranch, Elena had worked as a midwife in Mexico. She had acquired her skills from her grandmother, who in turn had learned from her own grandmother, creating an unbroken lineage of women, supporting one another through the perilous and exquisite moments of their existence. In the coming months, she imparted to Nora all the essential knowledge about childbirth and infants, along with the powerful resilience that resides within every woman's being. "Pain is not your foe," Elena remarked one afternoon as they sat by the fire, crafting tiny blankets and booties. "Discomfort serves as your body's method of ushering your child into existence. Have faith in it. Have confidence in your own abilities. Women have been embracing this since the dawn of time, and your strength is greater than you realize." The infant arrived on a balmy April morning, as the creek flowed robustly with the thawing snow, and the air was infused with the scent of fresh grass and endless potential. Nora endured 12 hours of labor, with Elena guiding her through each contraction while Owen paced the kitchen, restless and on edge, reacting to every noise that emerged from the bedroom. As the baby's first cry echoed through the cabin, Owen charged through the door, panic etched on his face, only to be met by Nora's tired yet glowing smile. Cradled in her arms, swathed in a blanket she had lovingly crafted over months, was the most exquisite sight he had ever beheld. A flawless little girl with dark hair and a set of lungs powerful enough to rouse the slumbering. "Sarah Rose Garrett," Nora murmured gently, caressing the baby's incredibly soft cheek. Sarah symbolizes fresh starts, and the rose represents her ability to thrive no matter the circumstances. Owen settled heavily into the chair next to the bed, his large, rough hands trembling as he extended them to gently grasp his daughter's delicate fingers. As she encircled his thumb with her tiny fist, he appeared as though he had been gifted the universe, all snugly swaddled in a soft baby blanket. "Hello, little one," he whispered, his voice thick with feeling. "Greetings to the realm of existence." The following 2 years flew by in a haze of restless nights and initial grins, filled with the everyday wonder of witnessing a little one grow into her own identity. Sarah took her first steps at 10 months, began to speak at 18 months, and started her mischief the instant she learned to open doors. She possessed Nora's tenacity and Owen's zest for adventure, resulting in some truly captivating days on the ranch. Nora mastered the art of nursing a baby while mending fences, preparing dinner with a toddler wrapped around her skirts, and thriving on just 3 hours of sleep as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. Owen realized that being a parent involved tiny garments mingling with the laundry, peculiar toys strewn about every corner, and a love so powerful it occasionally overwhelmed him with its depth. However, they found that the essence of family held a meaning that neither had anticipated. It wasn't merely the 3 of them facing the world. It was the 3 of them crafting a life worth cherishing, moment by moment, decision by decision, gesture of affection by gesture of affection. The ranch thrived. Their cattle herd flourished, robust and thriving. Their crops yielded bountifully for both sustenance and trade, and their modest home transformed to accommodate a proper nursery and a parlor, spacious enough for the neighbors who frequently visited, now that Nora and Owen had become esteemed members of the community rather than subjects of idle chatter. Nora established a school for the ranch children, instructing them in reading, writing, and arithmetic in the barn on Sunday afternoons. Owen earned a reputation as the go-to person for anyone facing the challenges of a tough birth, ailing livestock, or a neighbor in distress. In unison, they forged an existence that transcended mere survival. It blossomed into a life imbued with purpose and meaning. However, the true indication of their progress manifested on a Tuesday morning in May, when an elegant carriage approached their driveway, bringing with it a woman Nora had not encountered in 5 years. "Hello, sister," Margaret greeted as she descended from the carriage, her elegant Boston attire appearing absurd against the backdrop of Montana's dust. I've arrived to uncover the truth behind the whispers. Nora stood on her porch, cradling Sarah on her hip, dressed in a simple cotton dress she had sewn herself, her boots scuffed from genuine labor. She gazed at her older sister, impeccably dressed, impeccably proper, yet undeniably miserable, and felt nothing but a deep sense of pity. Nora asked calmly about the rumors, questioning whether you've truly made something of yourself in this wilderness, while Margaret grappled with the words, as if they were unfamiliar and unpalatable, wondering if you were genuinely happy. Nora surveyed the life she had created, the garden flourishing with orderly rows of vegetables, the barn where her daughter would learn to ride, the husband who cherished her for her true self, the community that appreciated her efforts, and the work that brought her a sense of purpose and fulfillment each day. She stated it plainly. I truly am. Margaret spent 3 days immersed in a world where value was defined by contributions rather than possessions. Nora observed her sister as she embraced a community where neighbors offered assistance freely without anticipation of reward, and where children reveled in the dirt, carefree and unconcerned about the stains on their clothes. As the final morning dawned, Margaret, with tears glistening in her eyes, gently pulled Nora aside to share a moment before her departure. She spoke softly, expressing her belief that leaving Boston was a grave error on your part. I believed you had sacrificed everything for pride and stubbornness, but witnessing your presence here, and all that you've created, I realized perhaps I was the one in error. It's not too late, Nora remarked softly. If you wished, you could begin anew as well. Though options lay before her, Margaret merely shook her head, retreating into her carriage with a wistful smile. I don't possess the same courage as you, Nora. I was never that. As the carriage vanished from sight, a profound tranquility enveloped Nora, wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. For countless years, she had devoted herself to becoming the version of herself that others desired, nearly losing touch with the essence of who she truly was. As she stood in the warm morning light, her daughter joyfully chattering in her arms and her husband whistling while tending to the barn, a profound sense of belonging enveloped her, confirming that she had truly discovered her rightful place in the world. As the evening unfolded, they found themselves on the porch, captivated by the sunset that brushed the mountains with hues of gold and purple. In that serene moment, Sarah drifted off to sleep in Nora's lap, while Owen gently reached over to grasp her hand. Do you have any regrets? He inquired, the same question he posed each year since their nuptials. Nora gazed at the life unfolding before her, chaotic and flawed, yet more exquisite than anything she could have envisioned when she had arrived at Millbrook Station with just 17 cents and a shattered heart. Just one, she remarked, her smile brightening as a shooting star darted through the deepening twilight. I wish I had realized sooner that the only validation I truly required was from within myself. The breeze intensified, bringing along the fragrance of sage and wildflowers, along with the hope of what Lucasoro holds. In the distance, a coyote howled, but this time it was not a solitary cry. It resonated with the essence of the untamed land, beckoning others of its kind. It served as a reminder that home is defined by one's choices and that family is formed by the bonds we decide to nurture. Ultimately, Nora discovered that happiness wasn't a treasure to be uncovered. It was a creation, crafted with her own hands, day by day. It required the bravery to prioritize herself and the generosity to extend that choice to others, a realization that held greater value than any external validation.